The idea behind this strategy came from a simple observation that when a stock starts going up exponentially in a parabolic vertical type way, it often comes crashing back down nearly as fast. This isn't exactly a new observation, and I'm sure you've seen charts of stocks that look like they're going to the moon but then suddenly collapse. Here's an example in SGY, and here's another example in AVXL, and finally here's another example in LEDS. And I think the reason for this is that when a stock starts shooting up, traders are inevitably going to want to take their profits at some point, and when they do, that can set in motion a very swift reversal. So the idea behind this strategy is to find those stocks that have gone up more than 80% over the last 5 days. We're going to short them on the next day's open and then close the trade on the open 4 days later. In fact, we're actually going to be closing the trade on the open of the 5th day. As well, we're only going to short stocks that are trading more than $2 per share and less than $50 per share, and we're going to set our minimum volume filter to 1 million shares. We're also going to use a fixed stop loss that is 20% away from our entry price, and we're going to divide our risk by 10 with a maximum of 5 positions in total. The reason for this is that it can be pretty dangerous shorting stocks, so we want to keep our risk fairly small. But also, we aren't going to encounter too many signals with this strategy, so we don't need a large portfolio. Here's another example of a perfect trading setup according to the rules. You can see the stock has rallied by more than 80% in a short space of time, so we've gone short on the next open and then we've closed out our position 5 days later for a nice profit. I've used the rate of change indicator ROC at the bottom for a quick way of seeing the percentage change. So to test the potential of this system, I'm going to run it on the Russell 3000 universe, which includes delisted tickers. I'm going to use commissions of 1 cent per share, and we're going to start with 10k. So this is a much larger database of stocks than we've previously looked at, and hopefully we'll be able to find enough short opportunities to make some money. So as you can see, running this system on the Russell 3000 between January 2000 and January 2015, we got an annual return of 8.61%, a maximum drawdown of 14%, with a win rate of 60%. So we're comfortably beating buy and hold here. If we move the test forward and run it out of sample between 2015 and April 2016, we now get an annualized return of 18.16% with a maximum drawdown of 8% and a win rate of 72.41%. So overall, these are pretty strong results, and you can clearly see how we picked out some nice short trades while keeping our risk relatively low. At this point, it should be noted that short selling systems are notoriously difficult to simulate. Because of various rules and regulations, there are obstacles to shorting that make it harder. Sometimes there aren't enough shares to borrow, sometimes there are shorting restrictions, and slippage can also be greater. In this strategy, we've set our minimum volume filter at 1 million shares, and that might be okay for a 10k account, but you can't be sure which stocks will have shares to borrow, so that's a setting you might want to adjust or look into. Likewise, with commissions, you might want to set them a bit higher and test how that affects returns. Another thing to remember is that when you short a stock, you have to borrow it from someone, and if you end up holding it on the dividend record date, you may have to pay the dividend back to the lender. That's the kind of small cost you can't really compensate for in a simulation using AmiBroker. Of course, short positions can be more risky too, since your risk is potentially unlimited with a short position, and a large overnight move can be very damaging. So that's something you need to be very aware of when placing a short trade. All in all, there are plenty of obstacles to overcome with short strategies, but that doesn't mean you should avoid them completely. The idea behind this system seems to have a lot of potential. It's certainly one you might want to trial on paper first and maybe look to improve. Such ways to improve it might include varying the exit criteria, only looking at certain types of stocks, overall just using your own experience and common sense. I'll now run through the recorded back test in AmiBroker so you can get another idea for the system performance.